What
do we
got?
I just like to turn the phrase. I had an IC. Oh. IC kipple.
Yes. New Kid Matt is I don't know what is this board?
This is an LCD monitor. This is actually one of the more interesting ones. Usually it's a separate board for logic and inverter, and they have a third board for a power supply.
Yeah.
This one's unique in that it's got a power supply in the middle, an isolated logic section, and an isolated inverter section. So basically, you can be dinking around with the probably 5-volt logic and be less than a foot away from the 1.5 kilovolt starter for the CCFLs.
Oh my.
Yes.
So what happened to it? Just stopped working?
It has a problem that is commonly known as a 3 seconds to black problem. So it turns on, the backlight works for a couple of seconds, usually around 3, and then the backlight shuts off. LCD screens aren't very useful without a backlight.
It's a nice phone, so it has touch.
The last one I opened up that had this problem, there was a safety capacitor on the actual inverter chip itself.
Oh.
And it charged up this capacitor if it was in an overcurrent situation. And once it got to a certain voltage, it just shut down. Well, if you remove that capacitor and replace it with a solder blob, it works reasonably well for at least a little while.
So what's the goal for this then?
I'd like to have a working monitor at the end of it.
Okay.
But if I don't, well, then the board will probably be cut about yay. I'll figure out where the input is on this, wire it up to whatever it wants, and have something at extremely high voltage I could probably spot weld with.
Then my cell phone.
What is this?
There's probably a radio back there. This is an old radio that boombox, yeah, and it doesn't have an input from auxiliary. So the idea was to get an old cell phone that's not being used, use it as a wireless device, find the input jack from the tape head, which we think is right here, and then you'd be able to just have this be a standalone wireless, streaming device or whatever, basically.
Without even using a Raspberry Pi.
No.
Nice.
Well, you're using a cell phone, but everybody has old cell phones sitting around that have Wi-Fi.
Cool. Oh, he put that one up. DJ Pete.
It sounds pretty much like my old rig back in the 80s.
Okay, yeah, we should probably find some higher quality music.
We need a final picture with you with that on your shoulder.
Use optical illusion to make it look like it's one of those humongous ones. Whoa. Distortion!
You're probably overdriving the inputs of your phone.
Yeah.
Well, it actually kind of sounds that crunchy.
That's why I was saying I'm going to try and find a less
crunchy,
chippy song.
I don't think.
Uh-oh. That's from a Wallatron video.
What do you do? Just jumper the speaker into the boombox speaker?
You know what? This cable may be no good.
Or the jack in your phone.
No.
Was the phone jack good before you came in here?
The phone jack was good. This cable was questionable though. It came from the hack stack.
Well, then try somebody else's phone.
Or somebody else's cable. I'll get a wire cutters.
We got them.
Yeah, that's
They're in the
weak right here.
Awesome. Nicely done. I don't know. So we're looking through a microscope at a really weird spider
That you found in your house.
that I found in my house. And that's the belly. And there's some funky thing there. Weird.
Call this. Oh, it's called Eagle something. It was,
There is the back of the spider. I'm gonna get the front of the spider.
Suppose I should take the power out before I open this up. Oh, you want to turn that?
And there is the belly of the spider. Actually, you know what the shape looks like? It looks like a bunny, like bunny ears. Rabbit. That's a rabbit hole spider.
That'd be appropriate. Scroll trap?
The boat race for.
So what is going on?
Alright, hold on. Yeah,
Alright.
so this is the drain off my old bathtub.
Yeah.
Since they decided to architect it where the drain went right over a floor joist,
Oh.
they had to put in the squirrely,
Oh my gosh.
side-angled thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So now for the new tub, I got to reproduce squirreliness, although the geometry from here to here isn't necessarily the same.
Why can't you just use that?
I think I got mashed.
Because this has like a piece of tub stuck to it. That,
Oh.
Try
unscrewing
it? Oh, God. Well, I tried and broke out all that stuff, so. And there's a leak somewhere in here. I don't know what's in there. Oh, it's probably,
supposed to rattle.
no, it's probably the pieces from this thing.
Why don't you just cut open the trap?
Huh?
Why don't you just cut open the trap and figure out what's in it?
Well, that doesn't. It's irrelevant now. Yeah, they didn't use the right cement either. They used primer over here, so you know. It's about that counts.
I found your leak.
No, that was when I was testing a cutting method to see how well it would work. That was not the leak.
Alright. Well, good luck.
So, I figured it's a lot easier to cut these things just the right length with the chop saw.
Sounds
The other
good.
alternative was to borrow your chop saw, but you know, this is.
Yeah.
That'll
You might as well just bring the tub here.
Yeah, that'd make the video much less exciting.
Much less.
So,
Wow, nice.
I've reproduced it to match this geometry.
Looks great. What was the hardest part of that?
Getting the tub in here.
Well,
So, it goes roughly there, that goes roughly there.
roughly?
Roughly. Well, it's because I don't have these things screwed back in, locked
Oh, I
them down.
see. Awesome. Well done.
But I haven't glued it together because I have to verify
And what kind
that
of?
it doesn't interfere with any of the floor joists or
Yeah.
supply lines. So I might have to wangle this and change a couple angles yet, but we're close.
All right. Cool.
So,
Now, are you gonna go and check it first before you take this tub back, or?
no, I've got to take the tub back and
Try with the
so
tub.
I'll take this, I'll screw it onto here with the fixtures. Then I'm going to just test fit the tub in place to make sure that none of this hits any of the other infrastructure.
Sounds good.
And if that is good, then I will glue all this together the way it is. Probably do a couple more tests. And then I gotta adjust the geometry on this thing so that the drain ends up at just the right height and this ends up at just the right place so that I can glue all this into my existing drain. And then, if everything works right, I drop the tub into place and this exactly mates with the holes. Throw in the hardware, and I don't need to tear into my ceiling or wall to do my drain pulling.
Probably preferable.
And then you take a bath.
Well, no, then I got to do the valves and all the supply side of the whole equation.
And then you take a bath.
And then, well, the
You'll
other
be-
interesting thing is the number of baths that'll actually be taken in this versus
Showers.
is going to be like a
Yeah.
ratio of 99.9 to 1
Yeah.
until we sell the house to somebody who's got little kids. Then they're going to throw their little kids in there.
That's all right.
The biggest problem we keep running into is trying to square it off with the bandsaw, and then it starts walking and bending the blade and
Oh,
moving it out away from the rip fence. So
isn't that more dangerous?
yeah. Oh, this thing is pretty safe compared to the bandsaw. I know you wouldn't expect that, but
I call these silos.
Yep.
Those silos are
And those are cows over there.
So,
I love it.
but Totally
That's
should
okay.
write our
So
own
this is
electronics
actually
book.
driving the this is actually driving the clock for this one, and
Which one?
for this here, which is the
Okay.
main processor. I want to say that's actually a JTAG header, but I'm not sure. It's a completely different.
So this whole board has just the one crystal, is that right, or is there another one hiding somewhere in there?
The only one that I've found, the only one that I can see on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my guess is that there is only one. The only other stuff around here that would be timing would be there's a PWM chip here.
Pulse with modulation.
It's voltage regulation at this point, basically, for that one, I think. And then over here is some. Got my finger on the wrong side of that one. Over here is some high voltage stuff. So this is driving their cold cathode compact lamps that are the backlight for the monitor. So very high voltage. You can see the. If you actually look this way, you can see the isolation. All these holes through here. There's actually no copper. There's nothing that bridges over that. So there's no actual connection. So there's no point within this that has continuity to that or continuity to that. It's all isolated. And that's just because some of it's noise. This is a power supply circuitry. It's not exactly the cleanest power supply circuitry. And this is some logic. So you don't want to mix those necessarily. And then this over here is very high voltage, and I don't remember what the frequency is, but I want to say it's reasonably quick. So this is high voltage AC, and so they're very much trying to keep noise out of it, but they also don't want, they really don't want what's over here to end up over here. Because this over here, I mean, this is to your buttons. You want 1.5 kilovolts on the button you're about to push? I won't push that button. So that's why they're isolated, and that's actually, that is, as far as I can tell, that's for noise.
What is?
This looks like a heatsink, but it's a heatsink on a ground trace.
Probably a noise shield.
Just because there's a...
Actually, it's probably for creepage. UL listing, you have to have so many millimeters, mils, whatever your units is, between a high voltage line.
Well, they've got a whole isolation trace and a whole dead zone.
It's called creepage. It's you in a straight line between your line coming in from the wall to any secondary voltage. You need so many inches of clearance, across. What they don't want happening is dust building up on the surface of the raw card and creating conduction pack.
Okay.
So from your main AC input to
anything. So there's 3 ways you can get around that min width. You either leave enough space between the parts, you cut a slot, which decreases it, but there's still a min, or you put a ground trace or a ground shield. And that's a ground shield.
Well, there is a ground trace as well.
Yep.
So it's sitting right on top of it, and there's holes on the one side of it. So I thought it was just for noise because there's high voltage, high frequency.
Not
right
where
there.
that's located. I'd say it's probably more for either as extra conduction. They necked things down too much that they needed to bridge the current, or for the creepage rules for UL.
Okay, I learned something. Cool, thank you. I would never
Had that been between that high voltage transformer and logic gates, then I'd say it was probably for signal noise.
Right.
It might be for EMC, but man, there's usually don't have EMC problems at the frequencies of infrared.
Never mind the tub going through the rabbit hole.
You never know what's going to go through the rabbit hole, do you?
I know.
I feel like an Alice in Wonderland reference is coming.
Let's see how water works as an interface because, like I said, normally it would be a gel that's very similar to KY. For science. So, where's your wrist bother you?
you want to use a plate?
For him? Yeah,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's even like a classy plate, not tacky at all.
Well, let's just start with the volar wrist and see what we see here. See how the interface is. So it's not too bad.
Oh my gosh, that means when Whisker complains, I can be like, the doctor said it, it's not too bad.
Alright, let's decrease our depth.
I haven't had nearly as many problems since I started playing guitar. I used to have a lot more problems.
Alright, so
Oh my gosh.
muscles and tendons.
Oh. I'm looking at the insides of you.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
Is it a boy or girl?
He's gonna name it.
Creeping me out.
So it's gonna be lovely.
I've got it backwards from what I'm wanting, and I'm not sure how to flip it on here, so we're just gonna change the angle of the rope. Now we're good. So, little vein there.
Looks like it has a face.
Radial artery.
Oh.
And then that should be his median nerve. Yes. So when you hear people with carpal tunnel syndrome, that would be this nerve here getting compressed in here. We're in the carpal tunnel now. Do you see the little sheath over it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the flexor retinaculum. And so all the flexor tendons down in here, plus that, live in the carpal tunnel. There's also another tunnel over here that you don't hear much talk about because usually it doesn't cause people problems, but it can. And that's where the ulnar nerve lives. It's Guillaume's canal. It's French.
I have that before.
Oh my
I
god.
think you are part French, aren't you?
How does
And then if we go ahead, hey, he looks like he spends a lot of time on a computer.
Yep.
No. So let's go ahead and wiggle fingers.
Gross.
Oh, you
got
never
a bottle
played
in
with
the
the
way.
turkey?
So you can actually see the tendons. They are ropes. They're pulleys, or they're ropes that go through pulleys. Actually, if we look carefully, maybe we'll actually see a pulley. I mean, people are just mechanical creations here, really.
Like a dwarf.
So here's his joint. This is the exactly.
Oh wow.
They're not made of stone.
Yeah.
And then, so go ahead and flex your finger a little bit and back and forth.
Oh my god.
Actually, it looks pretty good.
Now, right here, there's a pulley, and it's really thin, and we might not see it. It keeps the tendon anchored to the bone. Let's actually come back to here. This is the A1 pulley. There you can see it. You see the little thickening there? That's actually a sheath, like a belt loop. You know? And so think of this like a belt, and that little sliver. You see that little black sliver that kind of sometimes peeks in and out?
Yeah.
Is like a belt loop that actually wraps around so that when you flex, the tendon doesn't lift off because you'd look like you have a bowstring then. It keeps it hugging the bone all the way around. See, right now I have a tendon going from here, actually from the base of this, from here all the way down into my wrist through the carpal tunnel.
Yep.
Well, it would take the path of least resistance if it didn't have pulleys, and so it would be pulling against the skin, and it would bowstring out here. But the pulleys hold it down against the bone, just like your belt loop holds your belt in place. And so we can follow these out. And the tendons of the fingers are fairly complex, especially the dorsal, the extensor tendons. The flexor tendons, there's a pair of them. A deep one called the profundus, and then the superficialis. You see the two running together there? And it does a weird thing. The superficial splits and wraps around the profundus, which goes out further to the tip of the finger, or actually to the base of the distal phalanx. So once you get out here, then there's only one.
Move my hand in, make it a little easier.
No, it's fine. I can see sideways.
So now we're down to one band. Do you see that? And then over here, they come on either side of that. And as we come across here, you can see here's the superficial, and here's the profundus. And see how they wrap around like ears? Like Princess Leia's little buns coming around. And then they attach down to the side base of the bone. Yes.
That's what I heard.
Whisker has
I always knew I was
tendons.
a pretty princess.
pretty princess. So if you go to the dorsum of the wrist, flip it over.
There's nothing ghetto about this.
I mean, using water for our interface.
Well, at least you're not doing a whole belt.
So this is the ulna, distal ulna, and this is the distal radius, and so this is the distal radial ulnar joint. See how it's round? So when you rotate like this, this allows that rotation because this is a nice little round wheel inside of a groove. So when you rotate your wrist, that's why these two bones are able to slide against each other.
Can you tell if he has like arthritis?
You could see signs of arthritis on this. I have not yet seen anything.
It's too ghetto.
It is kind of ghetto. So this is called Lister's tubercle, and this is a bony landmark that we use in ultrasound, so that you know that this is extensor pollicis longus, and then you know that this is extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor carpi radialis longus, And then we're extensor pollicis brevis, and then abductor pollicis longus. And so if you've got those bony landmarks, you can find your way around the wrist pretty easily. This is the extensor digitorum tendon. So if we go back to here, and if Whisker wiggles his fingers again, we can watch them bounce around.
Now, when you say ghetto, is it not getting a perfect resolution? Whereas if
it's not bad, honestly, but you know, we would have the thing is it dries up, and but we have a pretty good interface. We would have a better picture here if this was a more modern system with a higher frequency probe. So sure, that'd be great. Thank you. So frequency in ultrasound translates to resolution. And so right now I've got a bunch of crystals in the end of this that are sending out sound waves that are, it's input and output. So it gets, the sound waves go out, and then it waits for them to come back, you know, it's sonar, and then it vibrates the crystals when they come back, and that signal gets sent to here and gets interpreted as images. And so based on time, so, you know, this signal took longer to come back than this one here, and so it knows to put this reflector, which is a bone down in his wrist, down here, as opposed to the ones that bounced off up closer. It knows to put up here because they got back there quicker. And so it's timing there.
So it's a 2D image of a. It's going down depth-wise. Then is this picture right here, right?
Right. So here's skin.
Kick you out.
Up here. And then down here is his bones, and everything in between is his tendons. And you can see the tendons. So
Holy crap.
see my
That makes sense now.
See my tendons coming across there?
Yeah.
Those are his tendons there. And that's the skin, a little bit of fat underneath that. And then
You're fat, Whisker.
tendons, and then joint capsule and fluid, a little bit of fluid there in the joint. So this is distal radius, this is proximal carpal row, this is the distal carpal row. And then you come up here, and here, this is the base of one of his metacarpals. And so you can find your way around pretty easily if you know where, you know, one thing's connected to the next thing, kind of thing. So
That's an alien whisker.
So then when you flex your fingers back like this is tendon, not bone?
when you see the little bands come up, then you see how there's like a band coming across here. It's on top of the bone. They ride along, but you see that? That's tendon. Okay. And you see how I can wiggle it like that?
Yeah, yeah.
It feels kind of hard, but it's like a piano
Like
string.
a string. Yeah.
Sure.
You know, we are just cables and pulleys and gears.
So
No gears.
How do they not
Steampunk.
snap then?
What's that?
Sometimes they do.
How do they not snap?
They do sometimes snap over things. Once again, there's pulleys that hold things in place, like belt loops. And sometimes there's a very complex one here called the extensor hood, and it has there's muscles that go between your bones here, and they pull down this sleeve that holds things in place here. And I just saw a patient recently who was getting snapping here, and it's because one of the parts of their hood had torn over here, and so when they would flex, it would pop over.
So that's the exact spot on my hand that I've had soreness for like a couple months.
Oh yeah? Well, it could be a lot of things in that location.
Want to take a look?
Sure.
Switch.
On the back side of it?
Yeah.
Back of my kneecaps when I was playing tennis.
Okay.
It just
I think so.
gave out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the head of the metacarpal,
Yeah, my knee gives out on me all the time.
It's really hard, but you have to like stay in tight cheek.
and this is the base of the proximal phalanx, and this is the extensor tendon.
Coyote hunting, and I was
And right there is where you've got a lot going on as far as the hood. It's a complex structure. It's hard to look at really with any modality, whether you're looking at MRI or ultrasound. It's just complex.
Sure.
But we're getting better at it every year, I think,
had to
at
get a brace, and the brace actually helped.
making sense of what we
Took
see
about
with
2
that.
weeks.
Like a knee brace.
Yeah, knee brace.
How long was the last time she was?
And I'm backwards.
I'm still okay.
So there we go.
The brace actually worked because what it
So
did
that's
was
the
it
central band of the
stabilized my patella.
extensor mechanism.
build up muscles in the right hand.
And the sagittal bands are the ones that kind of hold it from sliding one side or the other.
All the
Right,
time.
and so they're like the wings.
The Princess Leia
Oh,
things.
you can wear.
Well, on the extensor tendon, it's more like a hood. It's more like a cape.
Oh.
It's like Batman's cape.
But then it's just it's
Good
like
regular
property,
superhero thing.
Yeah, and on the front, it's Princess Leia's buns.
Oh, those buns.
Yeah, yes, the ear buns. So, and then ideally we'd be able to go more superficial and higher resolution than this. We can turn up our gain.
And then just, but
We
I mean, that way
can brighten up the picture up there.
measure you and they'll make sure
And
it's
there's other,
I'm thinking this.
so near field.
basically I monitor pressure,
So
and time.
All you need to do to get those hot
it looks a little thick over here, and I'm not sure
Within,
if that's real or not.
cans
But that would
or
be
any sort
on this side of the knuckle over here.
No.
Is that part where your tenderness is or not?
No, it's like right here. So
Oh no,
I do
I
that.
do woodworking on my own time.
probably more in here where I'm feeling the pain.
And electronics,
Oh, okay.
and I just kind of dabble
More out
in
in the
everything.
in the finger.
Yeah,
So,
or maybe on the side.
Just trying to figure out what you actually do because I was under the impression that you worked in lumbering.
Oh,
that sounds
no,
stupid.
no.
You see that on the table all day.
Let's-
I've also noticed when I bump it and hit it sideways,
Around 1,500 bucks, and then,
it can
you know, and I'll push a button.
stab
and
a
tweaks,
pain.
yeah.
An Alan Bradley program.
Wake him up occasionally.
It is pretty good.
Out here, there's not much going on. It's just a thin band after you get past the
Knuckle, yeah.
and that first knuckle. But there are contributors from the sides, the interossei, the lumbricals. Like I said, it is kind of a complex structure, but it's too hard to follow out here in that part of the finger. The thing is, if it was a big tear, you wouldn't be able to extend your finger correctly.
Yeah.
If there was a tear there.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a tear. It could be just referred pain, could be a little arthritis. You got this little bump back here, but that doesn't look like it would be in quite the right space. That's not going to bump when you extend. You don't extend that far. So I don't see any problem there. We can look at the volar side. Sometimes it's referred pain from the other side. So if you, back to the here.
I think we've talked.
Now this is the volar plate, and so that's a little connective tissue structure on the front of the knuckles. That people can sometimes tear, but yours looks nice and clean. And then these are the flexor tendons. There's your pulley. Do you see the little black thickening? Yeah, I think that's it. Go ahead and wiggle your finger. You can see it slide underneath the pulley.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that all looks good. And I don't really see, so for arthritis, I'd be looking for these edges to be more irregular and for maybe some spurring. You might have a little bit of a spur there, not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the only other part that we don't look at here that we can't very well is the collateral ligaments. You can look at the collateral ligaments for things like your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look at the side of the thumb and see the connection. And you can actually open up the joint a little bit and stretch it.
Hello.
So, not supposed to open that way, but there's a fair amount of stretch in the collateral ligaments, or in the joints from side to side. But you can tear that, and when you tear this sided one, this is the ulnar collateral ligament of the thumb. This is when you tear that one, it's called a gamekeeper's thumb. Skier's thumb is the other name, more current, because most people aren't breaking chickens' necks anymore with their hands.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, sure.
And
I
it's
got the trick for that.
But it usually a plain old gamekeeper's thumb, if you just splint it right, it'll heal fine. But sometimes there's a little adductor.
I'm sorry, did you say gamekeeper's thumb?
Gamekeepers.
Oh, okay.
Like
Keep
wild game
I thought.
is the
Yes. No.
A little bit different.
And there is an aponeurosis that comes over the top, and when this tears, if that herniates down below it, it can't get back to heal, and so then they stay separate, and that's called a Stenner's lesion. So
All right, but you didn't find any obvious.
nothing obvious on you.
All right.
All right, so that's cartilage. So we'll drop our depth
Gross.
down.
That's my knee.
So do you see the black stripe here?
Yes.
So that black stripe is the cartilage, and that looks pretty good for the trochlear cartilage. I don't see any big defects, no areas where it gets really thin across this big groove. That groove is where your patella runs, and so a lot of people get arthritis between the patella and their femur, but nothing obvious for this. We have to look through windows. So I come down here. You see how the window just went away? It's because your patella's in the way.
That's my kneecap.
Ultrasound does not go through the bone very well, and so you got to find a way to look around bone in order to do extremity ultrasound. And so we're always finding windows, so we can look at all kinds of things if you find a window to peek through the soft tissue because you can get good sound transmission through soft tissues.
I'm not seeing anything wrong there.
No, it's nice and smooth, right? So that looks good, but there's lots of places where there's cartilage in the knee that, you know, we might not see. If you straighten your knee out, let's see if you've got an effusion.
Ooh.
Wait, how straight? Like this straight?
It doesn't have to be super straight. Matter of fact, super straight would actually make it probably go away. So yeah, you have a little effusion.
What's that mean?
Fluid on your knee or in
Gross. How do I get rid of it?
You just put water
I
in
can stick a needle in there. Yeah. So it's not a lot.
Could we see the needle if we stuck it in?
Yes,
Yes.
I do ultrasound
What
guided
would happen if we took
procedures.
that hammer out there and
That's
just
right, yes.
whacked his knee really hard with it?
We would probably have more fluid.
Let's
And
start
so-
the needle first.
So we will sometimes guide needles, actually quite often, guide needles into joints. So this is the medial patellofemoral joint space. So here's the patella, and there's the femur. And so that's one approach into the knee. You can go that way. You could come in to the lateral space. Oh, need more water.
Ooh, that looks pretty. I got a pretty kneecap.
There it is. So there's the kneecap, patella, and there's the femur again. And so there you could come in, or you could just come into that space up above. You see that black little strip? That's the knee joint. You don't have a whole lot of fluid, honestly.
Okay.
If you come down here,
Because I killed my knees during tennis and I can't do much with it anymore.
so there's the patella again, and then this is the patellar tendon, which comes down to the tibial tuberosity and inserts there.
That's a huge tendon.
It is a huge tendon. Not the biggest tendon. The biggest tendon would be this guy here, the Achilles, is the granddaddy of all tendons. So.
It happens to also be my Achilles heel. Okay.
So whiskey. All right. So I don't do heart, so it's gonna take me a second to figure out. So here we go. Heart, cardiac apex. And so
You knew just by feeling my ribs were.
no. And now here we're on resolution, so we're gonna drop it down to gain. Actually, you know what? Let's go to a better probe. So we can hot swap these. So now let's see. We want to change our. Let's see. We're in general. Let's go to penetrate, and then we'll go to. Let's increase our gain.
You see my lungs there?
I could if I got in the right position. I just gotta find the cardiac apex.
Do you ever do this to yourself at night and just kind of like play around, learn some things?
It's getting awful personal there. We're getting some chamber there. So let's drop our depth.
Oh my god. I got.
Kind of almost wonder if that isn't his right ventricle, and then the septum. There.
Is that a coin? I remember
Oh.
septum as being a coin.
I see what you
Ventricular
mean.
septum.
Oh, what's the septum?
It's a wall between chambers.
You directed it off that way.
Yeah, I caught it on the foot.
I kind of think it is. So right ventricle sits anteriorly. LV, and then if we swing around here, then we'd be at the apex, pitching down.
Holy crap, that's so creepy. So you really gotta know a lot of foreknowledge in order to do this, don't you?
Gotta know a lot of what?
Foreknowledge.
Foreknowledge.
Otherwise you don't know what any of this means. Like I know math, you can kind of make it up as you
Let's
go.
crack them open and see if the
But
real
this
thing
requires.
Yeah, it's probably pretty hard to do a priori. You know, just come out of the womb and start scanning.
Come on.
But I don't know that I was doing math when I came out of the womb either.
You understand what I mean. Though.
Yeah.
You can make equations based on other equations. This there's no way to know what that is unless you've been
It's
trained.
a wiggly
specifically.
thing.
And you know how the human body works. I guess you build off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You slice up a few of them and see how they're put together.
You get upset for some reason when you do that.
That's how they do it.
Live before you start.
Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in
And not alive when you're done, I know that much.
and breathe out.
Whoa.
Stop breathing.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you can, you know, I think we could see your pleura move if we come over here and you do take a deep breath. There, you can see his diaphragm, I think, coming up, his abdominal contents.
Holy crap!
Sliding.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, so over here is his liver.
It should not be wiggling.
Because you take, no. Let's see. Take a deep breath in. That might be his gallbladder.
Ew. It's like piss and stuff, right?
No.
No.
It's bile.
That's a little
Yeah.
bit lower.
Yeah, bile is.
That's the stuff part.
Well,
See, this just isn't meant for doing admins and stuff.
Wait, where is this liver? I need this for my ninjutsu training.
Up here. It moves depending on how deep you breathe. So if he's clever and counters with a deep breath, you might miss.
really?
There's a paddock parenchyma in there.
Dude, he's like doing ninja training.
And then spleen lives over here somewhere. We just, with this interface, we're just not getting it good. That and this just isn't meant to penetrate that deep. You'd use a different probe. This is kind of an intermediate level probe, and the other one was like a high
light one,
resolution. And so neither one of those are for looking deep. This is, you know, this one does a decent job at carpal tunnel again.
Do you have carpal tunnel?
I do not.
Oh.
I have a cubital tunnel.
Ooh.
So that's elbow. And it's ulnar side, so I'm on there right. And so this is my ulnar nerve going through the cubital tunnel. That's my triceps. And it's not supposed to come up over that bump that's the medial epicondyle. Mine kind of comes up to the top of it. But anyways, that nerve, you know, is right there on the edge of my elbow, that bony prominence that you have on the side of your elbow. And so if you work at the computer a lot with your elbows on the desk and stuff like that, or just lay in a funny way, you may wake up and you notice that your pinky finger and your other finger
Tingly.
are tingly.
Yeah.
That's cubital tunnel, usually.
I thought that was ulnar nerve disease.
Well, that is ulnar nerve. Ulnar nerve can
I
be
have that.
can be irritated at the cubital tunnel most commonly, I think. But it can be irritated in Guillen's canal, and then there's lots of other places of entrapment that it could occur. But most people who come with tingling within these fingers, it's going to be the elbow.
God, that's so awesome. Look at those. Look at that. Oh, look at you, little dude.
You've confirmed he's alive.
Well, he has something that wiggles in his chest.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling.
Oh, okay.